So, as Dave was saying, this capture solution and information management solution is made for the information worker. Has everybody in this room scanned something at one time or another? Yeah? Show of hands? I've scanned stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So you have some idea about what the process is, right? Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes it's something of a nightmare, okay? You can end up with a single-page document that for some reason is 6 megabytes. Why? Because you might have accidentally scanned it at 1200 DPI in color when it's a 7-Eleven receipt. Sometimes that happens, right? It happens. In an office environment, if you're doing capture for 100,000 pages a day or something like that, you've got specialty people with specialty high-end tools who do that kind of thing, right? What we're talking about is capture for the information worker. Oh, by the way, Kodak makes all those tools, just in case you didn't know.
It's an educational session.
All right, educational. Okay, I can do that too. So let me train you on how to do this. I'm not really going to demo it. I'm going to train you guys. It's going to take 2 minutes, and then you'll know how to do it. I have scanner, I have page. I click the big friendly button. Often I will demonstrate this on a Surface tablet, so I'm actually pressing the button, and it just makes me feel good inside. Big friendly button. Scan goes through. We have Casey Culligan's resume as an example, okay? So this particular interface has some of the capture tools that you're probably familiar with, especially if you use something like Adobe Acrobat at home or some of the other tools to do sort of personal capture, but has some of the professional grade tools as well. You have a familiar thumbnail view on the left-hand side, zoom in and out. If you have multiple pages, you can split. You can merge pages. I can delete pages like if I have a blank page or something like that. Add additional scans. And some other tools I won't go into just for time's sake.
Hit the red button.
But why would I hit the red button?
I always hit the red button. Looks
No.
like the Starship Enterprise.
The
up
jolly
there.
candy-like
Hit the
button.
red button.
No, no, no. So we move from the capture phase to the index phase. Now we get to enter some metadata. But you know what? I'm not a big fan of typing, personally. I would like this to be happening for me. So I'm going to use this OCR tool, which comes in about 20 different languages. And I'm just going to click Casey's first name here. And last name. And Casey doesn't seem to have an email address here, so I'm going to skip to the phone number. I'm going to lasso that too. All right, is Casey employed? Let's find out here. Oh, 490 to present. Wow, okay.
And
Casey's employed. I know, right?
So
Who's employed anywhere for 25 years or however long that is?
And then that's last name, so that's required field. So we can actually sit there and assign what fields the information worker has to fill out. So no columns are left behind.
Yeah.
No column left behind.
Don.
Different settings like your DPI and page size and stuff like that, but I'm just trying to understand how that works with the local Twain driver.
Okay.
To send
You've actually answered your own question. This will use any scanner with a Twain driver, okay, which is almost every scanner made. I will show you the whole configuration interface. That's a really important part of this solution. Technically, how does it work? I'm going to go ahead and say magic, because the geniuses who were able to marry the Twain driver settings with SharePoint, actually some of them may be in this very room.
So it's not the magic people in the box. I've been lied to all this time.
Yeah, it's the people
I thought
under
the guys who
stairs.
turned off the light on the refrigerator had a side job.
Yes, Twainus interruptus, or whatever it might be.
Interruptus.
You'll notice I didn't actually fill in the top field here. It was filled in for me, where my cursor is here, for resume. okay? This is actually the resume content type for the purposes of this demonstration, all right? There's no chaining from one set of mapped fields to another. This is simply exposing the content type within the library that we have pre-configured for this resume to go. So when I hit save, magic happens. This goes to the new hire paperwork library for the purposes of today's demonstration. Yeah, that. Yeah, why don't I just say demo? It's less syllables. I'm usually a fan of efficiency. So here we are in the library. We've got the raw scan here, and we've got all that metadata. Again, we were just exposing the set of metadata for this particular content type, and there's a workflow process running in the background. You guys are familiar with workflow? Yeah? Excellent. But in any event, this raw scan is being converted to a searchable PDF, which means that if you're using any of a number of tools or the free Adobe iFilter to parse that content into your search catalog, this will be picked up and you'll be able to search it. But for the end user, all they really need to do is click the colorful button and click the metadata they want to have, and they're done. It's mere seconds. Let me just refresh here and see if we're done. Sometimes we can catch this thing on the flip side. While that's percolating, I'm going to go ahead and show you the configuration, since, Don, you were asking about that. All right. First of all, I should tell you that...
Let's go ahead and give a little more room so the people at home can see the whole thing.
Why not? Why not?
The viewers at home.
Isn't that beautiful? I love it. So this requires no client software of any kind, because your scanner already has the Twain driver hooked up to whatever machine you're using. I should also point out that these button sets are keyed to your permissions, which means that if you have contribute permission to a particular library, you can use the button to scan to that library. If you don't have contribute permissions, you don't see the button, right? It's the kind of elegant, simple design that we've come to expect from some of these Microsoft products, and it's just been followed on here. So the job called application in my list of jobs, in fact, let me go ahead and go through the toolbar here. I've got save, save as, new job. I can throw a job away, import or export it, and I've got a couple of other more esoteric tools I don't want to go into right now. On the input side, and Don, this speaks to your question, okay? How in the world do we know what to do? So this is where you actually set up your job. It's going to the new hire paperwork library. The application is a default content type of application, okay? These are libraries and content types you would have set up already. Second section here, these are interface options. Remember when we were looking at the raw scan and we had the thumbnail on the side? These two checkboxes enable, well, the first checkbox enables that editing phase. The second checkbox enables the indexing phase. That's where we actually got to click to get our metadata. Now, we can choose whether or not we even want to enable scanning for this job, because there's a file import option as well. You can have some jobs just set up for file import, some jobs just set up for scanning, and other jobs set up for both. If you're using a Kodak scanner and you have everything you need for it, this is how we select it. Otherwise, and you can select different job setups. This is all just pulling up your Twain interface for whatever scanner it is that you're using, okay? Otherwise, use those general settings, which happen to be 200 dpi color, one-sided. Or you can choose to display the Twain interface. It's going to call out and show the Twain interface of whatever scanner it is you're using so that you can set up your custom scan setup. Yes, ma'am.
Is there we will show an app. We will show an app. We will show.
So it's funny. We're literally seconds away from showing you that setting in this interface.
And I promise it's not the game Heads Up.
Also, file import. Now, we could import bitmaps such as TIFFs, JPEGs, whatever, and using the import process, This will run the exact same workflow and make you a searchable PDF if that's what you choose. We have other file format options I'll show you. Or we can keep the files in their original format if this is just a convenient way for you to pull them in, okay? So anybody here have one of those big, what they call MFPs, multifunction peripheral? Yeah, I'll bet you were about to ask about that too, right? The big guys that do, well, about the size of this panel here, that will, photocopy, print, saddle stitch, put covers on, right? And you can also use it as a scanner, right? Yeah, and it works, right? And especially in an office environment, that's what you have down at the end of the hall or, next to the water cooler or whatever. That's what everybody uses to scan. So if you have one of those, generally speaking, it will only email, and it does not OCR. You guys know what OCR is? Optical character recognition, right? It's a way to optically read the bitmap image and try to decipher the text that's on it, right? Optical character recognition. So we can enable email for this job. Just as you have incoming email that you can enable for libraries, this will, you simply set up your MFP to use this email address, and once again, it will come into the library, run the proper workflow, and you'll end up with searchable PDF or TIFF or whatever it is you decided you wanted. Does that make sense? So the last setting is whether you want to enable mobile capture, which Dave is going to show you in a bit, or now, whichever one Dave chooses.
We'll wait until we get done, and then we'll go have fun with mobile.
You're the boss. All right, let's talk about image processing. This is one of the things that you will usually only get with a more robust professional capture solution that requires desktop software. But rotate based on text, the auto-rotate feature, filling in holes such as from a 3-hole punch document or the 2-prong files you get in a lot of lawyer-type discovery documents or contracts. Crop and deskew. You can do despeckle under a couple of different scenarios as well, right? You can always turn this off. You see you've got the list of checkboxes here. This will also handle 1D and 2D barcodes and do barcode separations. The index feature is meant for later processing. In other words, it will pull the raw image in and just kind of hold it in a cache. And then you can go back later and handle the actual metadata capture portion of it. That's nice if you've got someone whose job it is kind of just to do the input, do the scanning side, right? And they can do that very rapidly. And then have other people actually deal with the metadata. So you can actually split up your capture solution that way, especially among multiple people. You have a number of file formats to choose from: plain old PDF, RTF, searchable PDF, text, TIFF. Okay. It does do PDFA, as you can see by the checkbox, and you have some image quality options as well. Please be advised, if you're familiar with compression, image quality, as image quality increases, so does the file size, okay? File naming. This is a really cool thing. You can set up a file naming schema based upon the library and content type, okay? So your metadata actually makes the file name for you, so that if this file gets detached, if it gets emailed around or something like that happens, that file name is actually going to go with it, so somebody has some idea of what it is. In addition, if for some reason your SharePoint domain isn't good enough for you and you want to send it to another one, you can do that. Just go ahead and stick in the URL, the library where it needs to go, and give it a destination folder, or it will create one for you if it can't find the folder that you've designated. Sir? Oh, okay. So the gentleman was asking, does the raw file get transferred to the other site and then processed, or does it process before it gets transferred? And the answer is it processes before it gets transferred. You can also push this to a document set, which is great if you've got multiple content types, if you're in like an automobile loan or mortgage loan situation. And we'll also go to a file system, which of course includes your hard drive or network file share.
Question, when you're sending those images to a file system or external storage like that, are you still maintaining all the metadata inside SharePoint and then just having a pointer to where the image is actually being stored outside of SharePoint, or?
It's a great question. This is actually pushing the bitmap file itself, whatever the end format is, actually, so it could still be text or TIFF or what have you. It's pushing that file to the file system, and you'll notice that you do have a copy or move choice here, which means that you could retain your copy with the full metadata in SharePoint and also push a copy to a file system at the same time. All right, so that's how the settings work. One of the things I wanted to show you guys, because I love this myself, and I get asked this a lot. You guys know what zonal OCR is? You ever heard that term before? Yeah. Zonal OCR, for those of you who don't know, because I saw a few heads nodding, that's fantastic, but not everybody nodded. It's possible you're nodding off. I have in my hand a health insurance claim form. Has anybody ever heard of one of these before? I'll bet you have. So with a health insurance claim form, it is a regimented formal document, right? There's specific pieces of information that belong in a specific geographic area of this form, right? So there's an additional component we can use to do zonal OCR. Let me just get back to the main interface here. It's working on it. I'm not sure if I like working on it or not. What do you guys think? No? Thumbs down? Okay. Anybody like working on it? You think? I saw a guy with a t-shirt that said working on it. I thought that was very clever.
Taking
Okay.
notes, Gene?
Yeah. We're working on it. So, one of the things I should point out, you see where it says source? See where my mouse cursor is? It says source scanner. If I choose file import, see that application 2 job in the middle? It's going to disappear because I haven't enabled file import there. Just wanted to give you an idea about how versatile and flexible this is, dynamic. But what I wanted to do, I want to scan this health form, and I don't want to have to input metadata. I just want it to work. So once again, I click the friendly button. It's going to think about it, and then the page is going to scan, and some magic is going to happen. So in order to get this done, we use an additional optional component that actually handles the zonal OCR. You'll notice here in my thumbnails I've got 2 images, even though I only scanned 1 page, and it's not because I scanned the back of it. I didn't do that. I have a black and white and a color version of the same one, okay? Black and white version, I don't know if you can see that or not. Black and white version doesn't have any of the box lines around it that you would see on the form, okay? That has been dropped out. So what we're going to do is when we save this, we're going to push the pure black and white version that doesn't have all those lines. We're going to push that to the indexing component. And when we're done, we're going to end up with a color PDF file with all the metadata filled in. Now I'm going to go browse back to the home page here.
Just cheat.
That's what I wanted. Thank you, Dave. There we go.
Is it intelligent enough to know if you put in the wrong type of document when you did that scan?
Is it intelligent enough to know when you put in the wrong type of document? Yes, it is, actually, because it won't be able to find much of this information, right? So this is the index portion. Remember how I said you could wait until later to add the metadata? Yes, sir. Oh, yes. So the gentleman's question is, I'm sorry, what's your name? Cure. Okay, fantastic. So Cure's question is, all right, what if I have a bunch of different forms and I have a whole sheaf of them, right? What if these are 6 or 7 different forms? Can I just feed them and have them parse correctly as different form types at once? Or do I have to press a button for every form? You don't have to press a button for every form, okay? The indexer is smart enough to recognize, okay, but this is the additional component, right? The info activate solution that we're looking at here, this is really meant to be thin, okay? So, there's no client software. It installs into the existing SharePoint farm as a solution, right? So there's no separate server component necessary or anything like that. But the additional component is what actually handles the indexing itself. And it can be trained to recognize the form types and spit them out as necessary. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Handwriting recognition? No. That's right. And if you find a solution that does that, please let me know. Also, let the other 6.5 billion people on the planet know, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You're asking about the Adobe document properties, correct? Okay. There are a couple of different ways to get that done. This is not done automatically as part of this particular solution. Was there another question? Did I miss anybody? Okay. So you'll notice that now we're in the QC phase. I just want to check a couple of things out. Yeah, Donald Darling, that looks like a name. This does not look like an employer name, though. So all I have to do, and pardon me on the resolution here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to pan over. I'm going to try to figure out where this gentleman works. Carrier Inc. There we go. So I can go ahead and alter that. In case you were wondering, no, there is no OCR that is 100% perfect all the time. Again, if you find that, let me know, and the other 6.5 billion people on the planet. And we're done. So when we go over to the proper library, we just browse to the healthcare library. Go Gadget.
Push the funny little button and focus.
There we go.
Focus.
Sorry, I'm still getting used to that button. I never use it.
Favorite button.
It's one of my least favorite, and there are so many least favorite buttons to choose from in 2013. So you see that this job is completed for Donald Darling, and we use the visit component here so that we can pop the PDF right up. We don't have to worry about any sort of authentication. We don't have to worry about whether we're trying to check it out or not. We just install the component on the server, and that way we can look at it all we want. So that's how zonal OCR works. And again, one of my most favorite things about this whole solution. So what does this have to do with governance? Let me try that again. So what does this have to do with governance? No? Sorry to single you out, man. You seem,
we have a small symphony in the back row.
Yeah, that's right. So what does this have to do with governance? First of all, you're able to ingest these files with your existing governance, okay? You don't have to come up with a separate plan just because it's a scan. This is going to use whatever policies you've implemented here, which means that whatever content types you have, if you're using file plan, if you're using information rights management, whatever it might be, it's all the same as far as this is concerned. In addition, you have the regimentation of these configuration settings being the same for everybody, no matter where they are, no matter what they're using. And that is a huge benefit to your image quality and consistency. Sir, you had a question. This does not apply watermark. If you have one of the big 40-inch wide scanners, and it's a Twain-driven piece, then yeah. You might have to wait a little longer. Yeah, yeah. Architectural drawings, Oh, they're usually what, about 3 feet long or so? 44 inches? Yeah, okay. More than 3 feet long. Anyway, yeah, those usually take a good 30 to 60 seconds a piece if you have a good solution, right? But yes, you can get architectural drawings in here. However, depending upon what the drawing looks like, I would not necessarily try to OCR it, okay? All right, good. So let's talk about one of the other components. Where was I? Actually, I think we want to talk about mobile capture at this time.
Sure. Yeah, so what we're going to do is I am quickly, because there was a question from the audience, otherwise I wasn't going to do it. We're going to do a little showcase of mobile capture. So in today's world, every day we wake up, there is a mobile device that has got a higher and higher resolution camera. And so what I'm showing here, as soon as we get it to show up. So I'm using an iOS device at this time to showcase this.
Yeah. Obviously not a Surface tablet.
No.
A 1 megapixel Surface tablet.
So here I'm provided, in this case, my permissions as an admin view, so I get to see all the tiles. In some cases, some people, HR, their permissions would only allow them to see their tiles, depending, finance, theirs. And so you think about mobile devices and where people are using these things. So my favorite is talking about energy workers or somebody on a site, a pipeline, maybe a construction site. Somebody's got a form or something that they need to capture and get stored. Maybe you need to get a signature in for a document or contract, things like that. So in the case of what I have in front of me, Actually, I've got a resume. I want an invoice or something they're close to. Either way.
Performance eval, all right?
Sure, why not? Let's go performance eval. Miss Holly Hatford is on this performance eval. So I'm going to click the employee eval form. And my handy dandy, I just have enough glare up the top. So my handy dandy documents there. And I'm going to really just, I'm not so good with a camera because I'm somebody with a mobile device. So I'm going to take a horrible picture, or I want to teach somebody back at the main office a lesson.
Yeah. Dave had a few this afternoon. He just can't get it straight.
Yeah. So if I have really good contrast, I can go ahead and it'll grab the corners of the documents really easily. But I have some glare. So I can just take my finger, and I'm just dragging my finger to grab all the corners of my happy little trapezoid. Kind of like a happy little,
Happy little tree.
Happy little tree. So I have, whoops, I think I'll grab that corner a little better because I'm a perfectionist.
Well, you weren't when you took the image.
I know. I know. If my kids' photos looked as good as this moment, my family, God knows. Boy, Dad, if you only took our pictures that well. And voila. So now I've got the performance evaluation through the power of moving my big fat fingers on my tiny little phone.
Yeah. And despite the poor way in which you captured it, that terrible angle, it actually is readable.
Yeah, I know. I'm even impressed.